Thursday night classes now at 5.
At 5?
And that will be foundation training.
Which is?
No kettlebells.
Okay.
Well, maybe a few kettlebells.
Maybe more like the classes you used to have?
Yeah. Well, we'll start with some foundation training. Going over the big 3 today. So, don't have to get, let's just go hands on the hip. So, big breaths. I use the term big breath, and it's usually the wrong word. Probably a better word is a focused breath. I'm trying to fill up this cylinder. I'm trying to go wide. I'm trying to fill up the back muscles. Similar to an intra-abdominal breath, we're just holding. We're maintaining the expansion. Filling up the cylinder. So people think big breath and they think, I gotta get a big lung full of air, and that's not the goal, because I mean, hyperextend. And that actually sets our back up to fail. We're trying to engage the abdominals. And the McGill Big 3, which are Stuart McGill's exercises to help stabilize. When we talk about stability, it's what? Unwanted motion here in the lumbar spine for any of our movements. So he's got 3 big exercises, and we'll go over those. But let's go over the breathing right now. Put your hands right here on the sides, elbows wide. Think of like a flying squirrel. What does it do? It kind of spreads its lats here to glide. Think about you're a flying squirrel. You're trying to spread your lats. Opening up that back. That's bracing. Feels good, right? Get the neck nice and long. Elbows really wide. You feel your fingertips get pushed into it a little bit. And then try to hold that expansion. You feel your fingertips go boom, and you're losing it. Foundation training, we're here. So we're trying to, yes, feel length, but we don't want the length coming from extension, right? So that rib shouldn't be pulling away like that. It should be lengthening up. Sometimes a hand here helps. Want this hand to get pushed up and out. Not the bottom one, not the belly one. The belly one should sink in. So we're going to add this to every exercise we're doing here today. So let's take this to the ground. This is called the curl-up exercise. You're going to put both hands on the cold mats underneath your lumbar spine. We want that to maintain that natural curve of the lumbar spine. Don't bend the left leg. Hands underneath. And the curl-up is coming from the neck. So lengthen your neck just like we were doing first. And you're lifting the head just an inch, no much more, just so you can feel your abs engage. Then breathe wide like we were doing. So the hands are maintaining that lumbar curve. We're lifting the head a little bit, lengthening and lifting. Trying to mobilize more the mid-back, the T-spine and the cervical spine, not the lumbar spine. That's bracing. Let's switch that leg up. The other big muscle here is the hip flexion, the psoas. It's working with the diaphragm. So depending on which leg is bent, you might notice one side's a little more stretchy. Get some tension in that hip flexor, run down the hip. One more side, we'll go up to our side plank. Taking that idea into this little side plank. So knees together, do the easy version. Hand on the hip. Neck's nice and long, but think about engaging the front of the neck just like we were doing. It's long, maybe it's a little bit forward, just to help engage that stomach. Push the knees into the ground, raise up. Do 5 breaths here. Put the hand there if you need to. in that wide expansion. Focused, forceful breath. Should be shaky, should be tiring. One more. Let's go and even that up. Drive those hips up. The hand just gives a good vector to push against. You should feel that bottom hip muscle working, your glute medius. One more. Good. All right, so let's two of the McGill Big 3. We'll get to the bird dog in a second. We'll throw a little foundation training exercise in here that's similar. It's going to help set you up with what we want, which is a very stiff spine. So we talked about lumbo-pelvic stability, which is unwanted motion in our pelvis and our lumbar spine. We don't really talk about the neck too much. So let's set the neck first. So we've got the knees down, the elbows down. We call this the 8-point plank. The feet are down, hands are down. We're pulling the head and neck away from the ground. You're staring right in between the elbows. Pulling your head as far away as possible. Let's try to lift your head up so much that your knees and your elbows start pushing into the ground and your hips come up just a little bit. Don't think so much of raising it as much as just pushing your elbows and knees into the ground very hard, pulling your elbows down towards your knees. Breathing again, really wide. Breathe your belly away from the ground. This is how much of a brace we want. This is where we want the spine for this next one. A couple more breaths. Good. Slowly come out of that. That's the hardest one for me. All right, so the bird dog. We did this one last time. We'll review it again. Now we're more like in a high plank. The knees are still down now. Pushing the ground away very hard. Create some space with your breath in between your shoulder blades. We don't want the shoulder blades pinched here. We want them moving away from each other. Head's pulling away, you're staring at the ground again. Toes are tucked in, knees are pushing into the ground. You're gonna reach your right hand forward, away from the left leg. We're not lifting that leg very much, just a little bit. Almost should be able to tap that ground a little bit. Because we don't want to hyperextend the low back. We want to keep that core really tight. Using that breath for that. Bring your fist to your knee underneath you. It's a good chance to push your fist into your knee and just push the ground away hard. Breathe stiffness into your spine. So not too much extension when we reach out, not too much flexion of the spine when we bring it back in. We'll switch sides. Push the ground away hard. Take a breathing brace. Reach out. Shake that off. We're going to run through all 4 of those again, nice and fast. So we're going to change up the first one because it's kind of easy. And we'll do a foundation training exercise called the anchored bridge. So just a tiny bit of bend in your knees, not like a full bridge, just a tiny bend. Hands on the belly, wrap and squeeze the inner thighs, they're hugging. Big toes are touching, the heels are separated. Breathe the bottom of your ribs into the ground. Pull your head and neck long. Put your hands on the ground. Push your hands hard into the mat. Big breath in, make sure your ribs can touch the ground. And then push your hips up just an inch. Hold that for 5 breaths. Hips are just hovering just a little bit. It's the tiniest bridge you've ever done. You should feel your hamstrings and your hip flexors. Keeping that stomach engaged, everything tight and shortened in the front of the body. Lengthened and stretched in the back of the body. One more breath. If you're having trouble with that, you can lift the head a little bit to help you engage that stomach more. So keep feeling that stomach. Let's switch to our side plank. Now we'll try with the legs stretched out, the other leg behind, if you can. 5 big breaths here. Keep pushing that hip up towards the ceiling. The bottom hip is the one that's working. Top leg behind. Breathe and brace. Even before you move, right? Sometimes if you move first, you lose that ability to engage. Good. Let's go to our 8-point plank. Elbows are slightly in front of the shoulder for this one. Like you're on the edge of a cliff and you're dragging yourself up. Pulling the head and neck long first, stiffening the whole spine. Foundation training, we understand the stability is not just the lumbo-pelvic region, but the neck. Lengthening the neck. A lot of people talk about the neck being like a whip. Your low back should be stiff like the bottom of the whip. The neck should move around. It can and it should. Most people have way too much degeneration in their neck. They need to work on stability first. So we'll apply that to our deadlifts when we get there. Stomach should be on fire right here. Hip flexor should be on fire. Tightening that stomach in. Pulling your elbows down towards your knees. Squeezing knees towards each other, elbows towards each other. One more breath. Shoulders should not be hugging the ears, neck should be long. Go to tabletop position here. I'll show this one from the side this time. This way. Probably kick the wall. Really getting tall. I'm just gonna push my head and neck away from the ground. So I can feel that stomach tightening up. The breath, most important part. Big inhale through the nose. Again, it's not getting as much air in as possible. Feel like you can't get a lot of air in. That's what it should feel like. It should feel stiff and restricted type of breath in all these positions. But focused is that low back. Because that low back doesn't like to expand. So it is going to be very difficult, very hard. The more you do it, you create a better pathway for expansion. Reach the right arm away from the left leg. Ready? Breathe and brace first. Reach like a fist, nice and strong. The leg is kicking behind you, like you're trying to kick somebody back there somewhere. Bring the hand to your knee. A little push. Get that adductor, that hip flexor working right there. Now reach out again. If your fist is grazing the ground, you're not pushing the ground away hard enough. You should be able to keep that elbow straight and reach the knee and without a problem. Keep those shoulders packed in close to the body. Core braced. Sometimes one or two of these is worth 10 really sloppy ones. Make it worth it. This is the opposite side. Even one good sustained hold is good. The only reason we bring it back down is to check, make sure that we are pressing the ground away hard enough. I like that little hip flexor engagement. Mainly it's to make sure that we are locking that spine out, nice and stiff. Good. Shake it off. That should be a good sweat going right there. Most of that's just breathing work. Teaching this whole cylinder to expand. Why? So we generate more motion at the hips. That's the whole goal. And to protect our low backs. Start lifting. We're moving from the low back. That's when we're going to hurt ourselves. Won't be the first time, but it adds up. It's death by 1,000 cuts. All right. So let's go for our band. If you have one, you don't need one. Grab your little red one there. See if we can remember how to tie these. This is a different tie we've done than before. Let's see if I can remember how to do this correctly. So just wrap it on through. That's right, yeah. So it's on the handle like that. And then we're gonna step on each side. Open that up a little bit. Right there. I'll show you from another angle. So it's on the two handles. Because deadlifting this much weight, 10 pounds, it's useless, right? We need some resistance. Yeah, wrap it through. Yeah, I know it helps Shirley here. We have a guest today, which reminds you that you should come and be a guest. We got space. Go through here, like that. And you just put your feet in there. Hurts my brain too.
Yeah, okay.
What time is it, 7 a.m.?
Kettlebell.
So before you do anything, just watch me for a second. Because there is a little trick with this one. We've done another wrap that was similar to this. I like this one, but there's not as much tension coming off the ground, especially with your red band. Black one's a little bit more. So think of that breathing brace. I'm hinging the hips back. So I'm breathing, bracing, pulling the hips behind me. I should feel a big stiffness in the glutes and the hamstrings. Nice engagement here. Grabbing both handles. And I'm setting up. I'm pulling my butt kind of up towards the ceiling. It's back, but it's also pulling up towards the ceiling to help engage the whole spine, the whole posterior chain. Feet are pushing into the ground hard. It just engages that hamstring even more. Big stretch. And that's what's lifting. Glutes, hamstring are pulling this kettlebell up. Really squeeze the glutes at the top a little bit. Take another big breath in. Breathe and brace. We're not going to go all the way down. Just so you feel that band really start to loosen. So pause. And then pull again. This is the greatest low back stabilizer ever. As long as we're doing it right. That's why we're breathing and bracing. Letting the hips do everything. The only joint that should be moving in your body is your hip sockets. No rounding in the back. I'll show from another angle here to help Shirley out. Watch me from the side, even on the setup. Very stiff. I'm pulling that head and neck away. That head is a big part of this. Pulling that chin in so you sound all funny. Big stretch in the glutes. Pulling up. Breath at the top. Another thing is I'm aiming, and the band kind of helps you with this, is you're aiming to put that kettlebell down. And we're not putting it all the way down, but it should be close to the heels, and just in line with the heels. Look at that band, perfect. The band's kind of like underneath the heel, back in the arch. Okay, we're not doing a bunch of these. Because yeah, if we're just doing the kettlebell, we get sloppy. So even if I'm bumping up the weight here with a 35, it's just not enough weight sometimes to make you be careful. It's just too light, and I end up just easily, I bent from the back there, you can see it. The butt starts tucking, the spine flexes, you just get lazy with it. When it's heavy, you're breathing and bracing, you're more conscious, you're more aware. Just stabilize the low back, motion from the hips. So you should feel this, glutes just on fire, hamstrings on fire. We're working the front of the body on the way down, working the back of the body on the way up. And you're forcing the glutes and the hamstrings to work in a very stretched position, the eccentric position at the bottom here, which is the ultimate retrainer. It's better than me digging my thumbs in there all the time, breaking that up. If you're always going to massage therapist to break up your glutes and hamstrings, they need to be retrained to work properly. Let's try this with one leg. That's what we call an RDL. An RDL is a Romanian deadlift. It means pretty much just the hips are working. We're not letting the knees go too far forward, and we're not letting them lock back. You'll feel it when they lock back from me. It says, oh, I feel a pinch right there in the low back. And that's too much extension. Shins stay vertical the whole time. As I go down, those knees are just fighting to stay right over top of the heels. You notice the knees, I'm trying to never let them move. This is one of the greatest knee stabilizers too. Just like we're gonna do with this one leg. So, don't have to do much here. I should use the other hand. The opposite hand, put both bands underneath the heel. And we're gonna go into our B stance. So that back leg, just like a kickstand, just enough weight. I wanna challenge one over the other. Let's see if Shirley can get this. I'll run through a few here for you guys.
Yeah.
Breathing and bracing, same idea. I'm not going down all the way. Because I lose that tension off the band. So I'm trying to keep that tension on the band. It's really just a little bit of motion. There you go. Just switch hands and you'll be good. Good. About 10. Again, you should be really burning. This will let you know which leg is stronger. That's why you're doing one side over the other. I could even feel it when I was doing just the double-handed. One side is getting more burnt out than the other. We all got a weak side. I don't care who you are, we're all twisted people. I work on all of you. I know, nobody lays on my table perfect. You're not gonna be even until you're dead. So that back leg is just, 80% of the weight is gonna be the front leg. It's just there as a kickstand. So you're lifting the heel up a little bit, placing everything, all that weight should be on that front hip because that's what we want to work. It's doing a one-legged hinge. So this is a single leg RDL from the name. Breathing, bracing. Find that tension on the band, squeezing that glute, come up all the way, and then slowly releasing that tension. I don't want that band snapping back down, pulling it down. Don't let gravity win. Teach your muscles to do the work. There's a little bend in both knees, just subtle. Spine really stiff, just the hip working. somewhere around 10 or until that muscle is just super fatigued. If 10 is easy, make it harder. Breathe and brace harder. All right, nice burn. We'll come back to those. Let's give them a break. Just grab your kettlebell that doesn't have a band. So now we'll just do some single arm. Right over top of the bell. Hinge the hips back. Pull that up. Now if you're just starting, we're just doing deadlifts. If you're feeling strong, big breath and brace, pull it up into the rack. Why? We're really forcing the legs to push hard. It's just not so much an arm exercise as it's the legs really driving into the ground, your back pulling up. Your arm's just a cable. That whole posterior chain in your spine is lifting. But reaching back and up. Just the hips really doing all the work. Super explosive. So if you're just doing it, deadlift, arm doesn't move, just a cable. There you go. Reach in between the heels, not out in front of you. If you're putting it out in front of you, you're gonna feel it in your low back. If you're putting it right in, almost like you're reaching behind you, you're threading the needle. Putting that kettlebell between your heels. That's when you're gonna feel that stiffness in the hips at the bottom of that. Now we can go that full range of motion. We don't have the band anymore. As you get stronger, then you can think about bringing that into that rack position. We'll go over that. All right, 10 each side. So either 10 just deadlifts with one arm, or 10 cleans. You're feeling strong. This is way too easy, Dr. Klein. Snatch it. Make sure it's nice and clean. Shouldn't be like, ugh. You wanna, see, watch this kettlebell. Watch how fast it goes up. So I'm propelling it. Very little arm motion happened there. Or arm strength. I'm not forcing that up. It's all from my legs. It's making 35 look super light. Now if I strict press it, that's actually a lot harder because I'm just using the arm. Here we're encouraging the whole body, which is what you do in your daily life, is you're not going to just strict press things. In your daily life, you're trying to use your whole body. That's how we were designed to do. Can't just bring this back down to the rack, then drop it back down. It's very different than swings. We'll do a little bit of swings, and this is new to you, but the swing essentially is just the deadlift in motion, but we're just having to control that weight, which is great for stability. All these little tiny muscles, sense motion. That's what they really do good. Your lat, 2 mechanoreceptors. These little guys, 70, 60, 80. Top of the neck, 200 mechanoreceptors. Sense motion. Very bad at sensing pain, so don't listen to your body. Like, oh, my spine doesn't hurt. Yeah, it's not their job. They don't feel pain, they feel motion. You can't move right, yeah, you got spine problems. So now, step back a foot from it. We're gonna do a swing. So we're hinging. I love this position, just to start here. So I'm pulling my hips back, so I'm tilting the kettlebell, rocking it towards me. Even just hanging out here. When you're in back pain, I just love to just go to this position. Very similar to our founder exercise, or reach the hips way back, finding that stretch. Breathe and brace the core. And all we're doing is lifting this kettlebell just an inch, so watch me. Pushing with my hips. Same exact motion, we just add a little swing to it. Hips are reaching back, glutes, hamstrings are pressing this kettlebell forward. We're really squeezing at the top to get that strong glute engagement. Keep going. I'll show you a new trick I learned. Guys, if you're enjoying these lives, you can donate so we can get more kettlebells. But if you don't have a lot of kettlebells, like this is our heaviest two right here, take a little band like this. What do you got now? You got a 44 and a 35, put them together. You got a red bell, right? That's a 70 pound, almost 80 pound bell. So now we can double it up. The band prevents the clanking. You shouldn't always use the band, but it's a good trainer at the start. So keep just doing the swings. I'm just going a little crazy with it. Same setup. Big swing. Just gotta widen the legs a little bit. So yeah, sometimes there's good reasons to do 100 swings, but if you get through 100 and you're like, that was nothing, you need to go heavier. Like with 10 pounds, it's just too light. When it's too light, your body is not aware of. It's not protecting. It gets in this mode like, oh, that's heavy, that's a lot of weight. I need to protect myself. I need to protect these joints. And that'll teach you to move better in life. Let's go back to our band. Going crazy for a little bit. Let's do a few more of these. Going setup, but again, if you only got light kettlebells, buying some of these cheap bands. Great way to make it. You know, this is 29 pounds. Feel pretty heavy. So we don't need a big barbell. We need to waste money on barbells. Band, kettlebell. Let's try some single arm here. Let's just switch it up a little bit. Same setup. Feet are kind of facing forward. Shins are vertical. You should feel that engagement in this anterior tibialis muscle. Engagement. Adductors to hip flexor. Pulling the hips back. Nice straight spine. Breathing brace here. Said one hand, then I switched to two. Just try to grab in the middle, there you go. Steady side. Watch the knee lock. Let the hips do the work. You can see around in the back a little bit. Especially on the way down, that's the most important part. A lot of people just round, and it sets you up into a terrible position to lift. And it's hard to get out of once you're there. It's almost like you have to go back to the top, stiffen the spine, breathe and brace, hinge the hips back, let the hips do the work. So hard to fix the bottom position if you get into it wrong. Hand behind the back's not a bad idea. Might remind you to engage. We want a little bit of curve in that low back. You don't want this rounding. I'm seeing a lot of this, so watch that. Because then we're lifting with a rounded back. Just gonna tighten up your neck. Keep it really straight, but don't lock the knees back. I see the knee lock, I know. Tight hamstrings. And you watch yourself, record yourself. You see the pelvis tuck. We call that posterior pelvic tilt. Why the hamstrings are winning. We want to keep this core engaged enough, pelvis neutral. We're building tension on that hamstring, in that bottom position. So just hang out in that bottom position sometimes. That's better than doing the lift. You set yourself up for that kettlebell swing, just don't do the actual swing. Just hang here, just trying to find, wiggling myself, wiggling my neck long, pulling my shoulders, using our little flying squirrel lats. That's what we want here. Getting ready to fly. Finding the tension in my hamstrings, getting my neck really long. I'm telling you, just hanging out down here. We got everything set up. Just think about the lift. Don't have to do it. What are we thinking about? Think about pulling the body up. My legs are pushing the ground away. Think of our founder exercise, same thing. That position. The swing just really helps pull us a little deeper if we set it up correctly. It's coming behind us, it's gonna hinge those hips back more. Really just pushes it past that little edge. Putting these in a very eccentric position, lengthened position. Forcing them to engage them in that position just to retrain them to be nice and lengthened, but strong. That's the goal. You should feel spring-loaded, nice and bouncy after this. Back should feel strong. You should feel like you're working these erector muscles. Lots of layers to those erectors, lots of layers to this fascia here. Let's see what time we're at. 7:30, that's about what I want to go today, but any big questions? Give me one big question you got, Shirley. Like, why does my back hurt?
I can't say it hurts, but
Yeah, if it's ever sharp, usually people get it right here. It's sharp here in the sacroiliac joints. It should feel like you worked it,
yeah,
but it shouldn't feel sharp.
no,
It
it
shouldn't
doesn't
feel
hurt.
stabby. It should feel looser in the hip socket. That's what we're going for. Teaching this to be strong. Seeing the rounding, our spine loves to round. It loves to do the work for us.
Yeah.
Hip does not like to do the
I'm
work.
used to that hip tuck.
The one thing I don't like about yoga, it's a lot of spine bendy. Just using that spinal motion. But if there's no stability there, because when do you yoga something in your life, in your actual life? Do you ever like, oh, I'm gonna pick up this weight with a forward fold? No one's doing that. Literally no one will ever lift like that. We're not, well, I'm gonna pick this up with Warrior One. No, we don't do that. We use foundation training. Training what? Training for life. Good lifts. Teaching the hips to get up that weight, pull it underneath our center of gravity. We lift from our center of gravity. Here, center of gravity is all displaced forward. Big bend in the spine. You're just gonna work your shoulders. I don't even want to do it with 30 pounds. It just feels wrong. Getting everything packed and close. Shoulders close to the body, hips close to the body. It's lifting with stability. Can't always do that. I understand. That's why we need this too, to stabilize us, so when we do have to lift something in a weird, wonky position, it doesn't break us. It's usually something like getting out of the car, that people have herniated disc. Tiny motion, oh, just because I'm old. Like, no, you've created a degenerative pattern over time. Degenerative patterns are muscular imbalance. It's been there so long that now there's joint imbalance and restriction and decay, and then even neurological decay gets built on top of that. It all starts in the muscles. Muscles are the movers. Joints allow for motion. So the McGill Big 3, hit those. The rest of this hurt you, go back to the basics. Do that hold. Build into swings. Sometimes people just start doing swings and it works. It's magic. They're like, wow. Swings. Just automatically just teaches them to move correctly. That's what it's supposed to do. I would say 8 out of 10 times, it works. Some people need to work on the breathing and bracing, get there, because there's something going on. One-sided stuff, really important. I'll go over this last, just to have one more thing. But I've also enjoyed doing that same lift on the outside of the legs, that B stance. Heck, if you got the balance for it, you can kind of yoga this, but think more like your bird dog. You're stiffening, reaching back, bring that kettlebell down. Yeah, you can do one of those. Don't have the balance, kickstand. Same idea, I'm reaching my left hip behind me, stiff spine, bring that kettlebell down right by my heel, or maybe just stopping. I can feel right there, I want to bend a little bit for my spine, so I don't go that far. You're just feeling that tension. You feel that tension, that stretch build up in that hamstring. You feel that break right there. Release the tension. Now into my calf, you can see I'm bowing my spine. Then I'm lifting with a bowed spine, and that's teaching us improper motion. So I also like, setting that kettlebell off to one side. It's like a farmer's suitcase carry. Helps the opposite core really engage. I love one. That's why kettlebells are so good. Is it's mostly one-sided stuff. We start with the deadlift, just to teach the breathing and bracing. When you get into the meat of the material, mostly one-sided stuff. I've also enjoyed, once you get good at that, you can do the swing with this. Same idea, you're hinging, pressing. Don't smack your knee with the kettlebell. Forces you to have that nice flying squirrel effect, that lat spread. Same idea we're going for in foundation training, decompression breath. This is the great trap loosener. Switch it out, move you on the other side. One thing I fear about kicking the leg back is people tend to arch the spine too much, and that's not the goal either. So maintaining that neutral curve of the pelvis. Round that foot. Ball the big toe, ball the little toe, heel. Gripping the ground. Don't want any motion happening in that foot. It's grabbing that mat as hard as possible. Maybe each rep I'm going a little bit farther if my hip will allow it. It's more heavy weight can kind of help. It can pull you past that threshold, but you're still keeping that low back engaged. So I move really slow. You don't get this with heavy barbells, because what do you see them do? They go, oh, I lifted it, look at me. And they drop it, right? They don't ever get that negative of going back down to the ground. So we're really working on that, slowly going back down, which works this chain of muscles. Some swings too, even that out. Love the swing because you're so afraid of hitting the knee. So we should be caving the knee, keeping that knee over the toe, or that third toe, spreading those lats, showing off your back. Again, grabbing the ground with the foot, make that the most stable part of your body. What's moving? Just the hip, not the arm, the hip. Hip hinging and then thrusting forward is what's causing that kettlebell to swing. It's the same with our double handed. And you're building up to fun stuff like this. Great one-sided exercises await you. This has changed my ankles more than any other exercise, but it took me a while to get there because you're constantly fighting against the pull of this kettlebell. It's very tough. Just giving you an idea where you can go with it. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Let's go adjust Shirley.